Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Really nice to see so many faces. So my name is Yoni Tietz. I'm an Android engineer. And as you can see by the big words on the big screen, we're going to talk today about ARP architectures and the idea of going with multiple architectures rather than just a single one. So a bit about me. I've been an Android engineer for the past 5 years, been working in the tech industry for the last 7, also worked as a data analyst before that. And for the last 2 years, I've been working here in London for a company called Trainline, that some of you might know. Have some users in the crowd, very nice. And lately in Trainline, we have decided to take the decision to officially work with 2 architecture design simultaneously. And in this talk, we're going to go over the why and how we did it, and however, if you should or shouldn't try it out yourself in your own teams. But before that, I'm going to quickly go about, just get us on the same line, but what is ARP architecture, or what do I mean when I talk about ARP architecture? Some of the popular ones that I'm sure most of you will know, but there might be some that will be new to you. We're going to go over maybe why we want to have more than one, what's the benefit, why you might not want to do it, how we did it, and some do's and don'ts from my experience. So let's just get right into it. So just from talking earlier today and in some speakers' event yesterday, people have different idea when it comes to app architecture, right? So when I say app architecture, I mean that this is one of the most important considerations that we're going to have while building an app. It's going to ensure that our apps could be robust, testable, and maintainable. And if we pick it right, a well-designed architecture will lay the foundation to basically have our app functional and working well for a very long time. And that's kind of what everybody here wants, right? Now, there are many different architecture designs. These are what I call the big 3. We have MVC, which stands for Model View Controller. Who here still works with MVC? Show of hands, don't be shy. Hey, not too many people. Good. MVP, Model View Presenter. Who here works with MVP? All right, yes, one of the more popular ones. And MVVM? Yay. The best one. Not really, maybe. We'll get into it. So for those of you who don't know, MVC, probably one of the older ones, the user technically interacts directly with the controller, and then the controller, which is aware of the view and the model, can connect the model to the view, and the view and the model is aware of each other, but not aware of the controller. It's one of the older ones that we still see in Android. And there is MVP, which is a bit more modern, where the user interacts directly with the view, and each view has a presenter, and they both are well aware of each other, and the presenter is aware of the model, and they can discuss with each other, which is very nice. And then we have MVVM, which is probably the most, as we can see, the most popular one at the moment. Again, the user interacts directly with the view, just like in MVP. And the view is aware of the view model. The view model is not aware of the view. So it can be reused, and we usually use things like observables and flows, but you already know that, since so many of you raised your hands. And it all being connected to the models. Now, another one that's gaining popularity, it's MVI. Who here works with MVI? Okay, I'm seeing a nice amount of hands. So MVI stands for Model View Intention. Now, when I say intention, I don't mean the intention you used to from Android framework it's kind of a bit of a different idea. So what's really cool about this one is that it's circular, and it's go in one direction, like our favorite band. A lot of One Direction fans around here. We call that unidirectional, if you want to be scientific about it. And in this one, the model holds different states for the view. So what we're going to happen is the user is going to interact with the app. The interaction sends the intent. The intent goes to the model sends back the state. The state is being updated in the UI, the view, and like I said before, it's cyclic. It repeats itself, which gains us predictability. We kind of know what's going to happen. There are some, of course, another important thing is the states are immutable, meaning it pretty much gives us pretty solid thread security, which, again, everybody likes. And now, it's very cool, and it's a very powerful tool. There are some problems with it, as you might see by the amount of states you're going to have here. If your page is more complicated, there's going to be a lot of boilerplate code, and it might be a bit harder to maintain. But it's a very strong tool. It's one of the new architectures we are introducing in Trainline. Another one I just want to put out there is clean architecture. And this is not a new concept, but I think more and more companies, more and more apps are trying to introduce the idea of clean architecture when talk about architecture. And the basic rule of clean architecture is called the dependency rule, which the idea is, when you can see, look here in the circle, is that the center does not depend on anything. If you're really fanatic of it, it wouldn't even depend on any third-party libraries. It's going to be in-house. And then each time you go out, the outer layer is going to only depend on the one that it holds. So for example, this controller layer only going to depend on the use cases. And use cases only going to depend on entities. Now, this is just a general one. Clean architecture is really flexible. You can play with it, have a certain layer, remove a certain layer. You can really have fun with it. But after we went over this, like 5, I think, most popular at the moment architectures, let's just jump into the main idea of this talk of should we go from what we're used to usually, which is having one architecture per app, or maybe go with multiple ones. And now let's go over some of the why we would maybe want to go with multiples. Now, the first benefit that we might see here is the separation of concern. So we understand, after viewing all those and working with those different architectures, that different architecture can help with different things. And it can also separate those concerns in your app, such as UI, business logic, even testability sometimes. It could really make your code more modular, more sizable, and which is great. The second one is pretty straightforward, is optimization. We understand that some features or some screens would work best with specific architectures. And the last one is also very straightforward, is flexibility and framework compatibility. I think a lot of us here knows a library that works best with like one chosen architecture. Usually these days it's MVVM. For example, Compose works technically, ideally best with an MVVM architecture, at least in theory. I know some people here will say that it works great with the architecture you have at the moment, but Google shows it up as the perfect combination. Now, these are some of the more general benefits, but when you introduce a new architecture, there are some things you have to worry about. The first one is basically added complexity. When you add something as detrimental as an architecture, there's no way out of it. You're going to introduce some more complexity to the code, especially if you have areas that you're aware that some of those architectures may collide, and you have to really think of all the edge cases in which it might be a problem. Another one, which is a big one, which we often forget about, is the onboarding time and the learning curve. If you have a newcomer and they have to learn not one architecture, but two, and let's be frank, even if we go by the book on all these different architectures, every company does it a little bit different or have something that they added years ago that they still use or not use anymore, but the newcomer should learn about. So when you have two of those, it can make it really hard for a newcomer to understand and figure out how everything works. And the last one is, of course, maintenance costs. If you have double the architectures, you're going to have to invest double in maintaining all those different architectures, especially if you want to scale up, if you want to update your versions of different libraries. It might be harder than we think. So given all those different considerations, this is what led us in Trainline to kind of go with this two architecture kind of idea. So we went with the combination of MVVM and MVI. The idea behind introducing MVI was that Trainline, which I'm guessing there are some users in the crowd of Trainline, some of our screens, as you might know, are very heavy, and especially on our business logic itself. But they are very predictable. Things like user's location, if it be it in the EU market, UK market, outside of it, things like all kind of personalized experience that we want to deliver to the user. All those things make some of our screens very heavy, but in the same time, very predictable. We kind of know how it's going to play out. That's why we went with MVI, or at least we're still in the process of taking MVI and spreading it across a more logic-heavy screens. Now, for the rest of it, we go with MVVM, which is, a favorite. There's a lot of data around it in the internet, and it's nice and agile, and yeah, it just works. Now, in the process of doing all these additions, it was very important for us that everything is going to be out in the open. So it wouldn't be just, someone decided, here is a new piece of code, now work with it. It should be part of a discussion in the team, and we should reach an agreement. How do we want this new architecture that we're all going to work with to actually look like? So we're talking about big PRs that the entire Android platform is being tagged on, and just to kind of reach the perfect solution for our platform. And I think that's one of the main ideas that we take from this process is have as open as communication as possible, right? Especially when you're adding something that detrimental to your app. Now, a bit more about how should you, if you decide to add a new architecture, how should you go with it? So I think the first one is really important, is have very clear intentions when introducing a new architecture. Introducing it just because it's cool is not enough. Or if you think it's good for like one tiny thing that you might not use again, it's not enough. You have to have clear intentions of why this is good, of why this will be even cost effective, especially if you want to, make someone approve these changes at some point. And if we're talking about, adding a new architecture just because we like how it looks, if we still have an old architecture and we're keeping it just because it's there, might as well just not go with two architecture, but just convert what you already have to a different architecture. It will get clear of all the drawbacks we saw just earlier, and you're still going to end up with the architecture that you actually want. So that is something I see many people just adding another architecture with no real reason. Third one is something we just mentioned, is about having it as an open discussion. Nobody wants, to be dropped with new technology that they don't think that they need or want, or don't like the way it's been implemented, and then it's part of their day-to-day job. Have it as part of the team, have it a team process, could really make it better and also better received by the team. And last but not least, and I think it's true for basically every new thing we do, avoid over-engineering. Remember, always dry, kiss, and yagni. For those of you who don't know, dry means don't repeat yourself. Kiss means keep it simple, stupid. And the third one, yagni, is you ain't gonna need it. A lot of us, when we add new detrimental code to our app, we add things that might be good in the future, or we might need it one day, but then we just never use it, and everything is built on something that we, have to remove. And that is it. How are we on the time? I think we have a time for a question. But before that, please do keep in touch. You can scan this barcode. It will not download spam to your device. It's just going to connect it to my LinkedIn. So feel free to ask questions there. I think we're out of time, right, Steve? 2 minutes? Okay, if there is a question real quick, by the way, you can just come to me and ask me a question if you want to. Let's go with that. Thank you very much.